Let's get across the market open now. Peter Maguire joining us from Trading.com. Pete, welcome to Thursday here at Ausbiz. Great to have you back with us. A lot of movement overnight, very much risk on. Now, this is off the back of the US Treasury. A bit of a surprise announcement there, intervening, given where those, following that sharp sell-off, of course, we've seen in the bond market.
Absolutely, Andrew. Yeah, it goes back to 61 under the Kennedy administration. They called it the twist. And then it was adopted again in, I think, in 11. And here we are. Scott Bessent had another crack at it. It's been a long night, and it's been very fascinating to see, the 30-year yields. They were driven down 10 basis points to 518. And the whole strategy, I think, Andrew, is Treasury to step in to support the bond yields as far as buying longer dated bonds. And they want to, they're worried about as far as costs for their borrowing. And the markets really took a very aggressive stance with gold up, just nudging 45.76. And, Bitcoin well up, XRP, and overall a good market, good evening as far as trading.
Yeah, very much risk on. As you mentioned there, the dollar, that's down to its lowest level in 3 months.
Yeah.
So where to here? I mean, given obviously we saw that bit of a boost there on the equity market, but as you mentioned there, the likes of gold and Bitcoin doing very well.
Absolutely. Well, I think, US dollar index, Andrew, over the last week, we've been at 100.4 sort of number. Here we are today, 98.77. So it's snapped through, the bottom end of 99, and now you're into a new territory in the sense of where we go to see US dollar. And I would think you're probably looking a little bit lower than where it is at the moment. Everything else was bid up, as you got on the graph there as far as the chart. 5,000 up for Bitcoin. That's a big move. The bulls are out, and I would say that with this sort of strategy, Scott Bessent may have another crack at it over the next week or two. So I'm not going to say it's going to be a one-hit Charlie. I think that he'll probably take a more aggressive stance, and this could just be the start of it.
Just equity-wise, Pete, did you see that move by Moderna overnight? Up more than 170%. That's just unprecedented, isn't it? This is off the back of its positive results from its late-stage melanoma trial.
Yes, exactly, Andrew. I mean, they're monstrous moves, aren't they? When you're thinking about that, it's nearly like the hyperscalers. Hard to get your mind around from not only a PE perspective, but just market sentiment. And obviously the market's absolutely, loving the news. So that was very much enjoyed as far as share price. And that tells you the story, doesn't it? So when you see that sort of mind-blowing news in a trading session, you sometimes scratch your head and go, wow.
Pete, what are you seeing with the performance on Wall Street at the moment? Might just bring up the S&P 500, see how it is tracking at the moment. How bullish do you regard the market at the moment?
I'm very bullish. I mean, the S&P was actually down 1.01% for the trading session, but futures are up, Andrew, and I'm thinking that, you're going to be knocking on the door of 8,000 very, very shortly, the way that it's going as far as momentum. And I really think that there's probably, you're knocking at the moment 7,707. I think 8,000 is very achievable this quarter. And we've still got, the best part of 6 weeks to get there till the end of September. So overall, I was noticing Morgan Stanley, I think they came out and they were saying 8150 or 8200 for a year-end target. It could even get there quicker than that.
What are your observations about the local market at the moment, Pete? Obviously very much driven by those reporting results.
Yeah, well, it's still doing quite well. I think overall, it's volatile, Andrew, and there's still, I think, plenty of sunshine ahead for the Aussie market over the next year. So the overall theme, I think, is bullish, and Asia's up, and I think the whole cascade as far as global markets, it's one of upside, not necessarily downside. So I'm pretty well bullish as far as the Aussie market over the foreseeable future.
Pete, how are you regarding oil at the moment and those movements? Look, that stalemate, showing no signs of any movement there whatsoever in the Middle East between Iran and the US. In fact, both sides essentially digging in.
Yeah, absolutely. They're digging in all right. There's no shortage of rhetoric coming from both sides, Andrew. What's going to happen as far as escalation? Is it going to be ramped up? You've got Brent sitting at 91.60. You've got WTI knocking on the door of 86. So it's been very strong over probably the last week or so. And I feel as though that unless we see something dramatic happen, it'll just edge higher from here. There's the transponders are being turned off. There's still shipments getting through. It's hard to know who to actually believe as far as storyline. You've got to be conscious also. Strategic petroleum reserves are at record lows, not only in America, but across very much, some of Asia. And if this was to really, as you said, dig in for the next month or two, then that's going to, I would think, impact GDP growth and supply chains and energy consumption. So yeah, it's not a good sign. And I'm also concerned about the Red Sea, the Houthis getting back involved, Bab el Mandab and that choke point through there, Andrew, as well.